Hi there, I'm John McAdams, founder of the Big Game Hunting blog, and in this video I'm going to do a detailed analysis of the 7mm Remington Magnum and how it compares to the 300 Winchester Magnum cartridge. Now those two cartridges are probably among the first that spring to mind for hunters thinking about buying a new rifle for a serious hunt that they think they'll need a heavy-hitting Magnum on. Now they're also among the most popular cartridges used by outfitters and guides all over the world, but for reasons we'll get into here shortly, this is especially true for guides based in places like Canada and New Zealand. So with all that in mind, in this video I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of the 7mm Remington Magnum and the 300 Winchester Magnum so you can decide which one is best for the sort of hunting you plan on doing. So we'll start with a brief history of these two cartridges. Now, though the 270 Winchester and the 30-aught Springfield are both wonderful cartridges that have been incredibly popular with hunters since they were first introduced at the beginning of the 20th century, gun designers never stopped looking for a way to improve upon the performance of those two old warhorses. This was especially true for the 30-06, which has long been the standard against which new centerfire rifle cartridges are measured against in the United States. For example, designers at Holland & Holland thought they created a real winner with the 300 H&H Magnum in the 1920s. For one thing, that cartridge enabled shooters to fire the same weight bullet a couple hundred feet per second faster than the 30-06. At the same time, it was also extremely accurate, and Ben Comfort famously won the 1935 Wimbledon Cup using the 300 H&H Magnum. Now, unfortunately, the 300 H&H was so long that it required the use of a Magnum-length action. So while the cartridge was moderately popular among shooters and hunters in the U.S. prior to World War II, the outsized length of the 300 H&H hampered more widespread acceptance of the cartridge and contributed to its decline of popularity during the ensuing decades. Now, civilian firearm and cartridge development really slowed down during World War II, but the major gun manufacturers released a flood of new hunting cartridges in the following years. This time period saw a wave of new belted Magnum cartridges based on the 375 H&H Magnum, like the 264 Winchester Magnum, the 338 Winchester Magnum, and the 458 Winchester Magnum. All of those cartridges saw varying degrees of commercial success, but the best was still yet to come. Now, Norma made a big splash when they rolled out the 308 Norma Magnum in the early 1960s. That new cartridge essentially duplicated the ballistics of the 300 H&H Magnum, but it used a much shorter case that allowed the cartridge to fit in a standard length action. And for those reasons, the 308 Norma was extremely popular for a short time. Remington changed the shooting world forever in 1962 when they introduced their legendary Remington Model 700 rifle along with the brand new 7mm Remington Magnum cartridge. Using a shortened 375 H&H Magnum case paired with a .284 caliber bullet, the 7mm Remington Magnum offered significantly improved ballistics over the 30-06. Indeed, the 7mm Magnum will shoot the same weight bullet a couple hundred feet per second faster than the 30-06. Additionally, the smaller diameter .284 caliber bullets the 7mm Magnum uses have a higher ballistic coefficient and more sectional density than 30 caliber bullets of the same weight used by the 30-06. For those reasons, typical 7mm Rem Mag loads have a flatter trajectory, more energy remaining downrange, and all other things being equal, will penetrate better than 30-06 loads using the same weight bullets. And to top it all off, the new 7mm Remington Magnum cartridge fit in a standard length rifle action, which is the same as the 30-06. With all that in mind, it is not surprising at all that the flat shooting and hard hitting 7mm Remington Magnum quickly caught on with hunters and shooters in North America. Now, designers at Winchester during that same time frame could see what direction the wind was blowing, and they began work on a 30 caliber cartridge built along the same lines as their other belted Magnums, and it used a case from the 338 Win Mag, which was itself descended from the 375, as a model for the new cartridge. The company formally introduced the fruits of their labor to the world in 1963, the 300 Winchester Magnum. Like the 308 Norma, the 300 Winchester Magnum essentially duplicated the performance of the 300 H&H Magnum in a shorter case that fit in a standard length rifle action. In fact, the 308 Norma and the 300 Winchester Magnum were both very similar in terms of performance and overall cartridge size. Even so, the advent of the 300 Winchester Magnum resulted in a sharp decline in the popularity of the 308 Norma for two primary reasons. First, the new cartridge was available in the venerable Winchester Model 70 rifle. Second, Winchester also started producing massive amounts of quality factory ammo in 300 Win Mag, and many of the other big ammo companies soon followed. Since 308 Norma rifles and factory ammo were much less common in North America, the new Winchester cartridge quickly overtook and eventually replaced the 308 Norma in that market. Now, that is not to diminish the capabilities of the 300 Winchester Magnum at all. On the contrary, it is a fantastic cartridge that is extremely popular for good reason. Due to its advantage in case capacity, the 300 Win Mag has a noticeably flatter trajectory, along with about 20% more energy than the 30-06. Though both cartridges utilize the same .308 caliber bullets, the 300 Win Mag is also better suited for using heavier bullets in that 200 to 220 grain range than the 30-06. In short, like the 7mm Rem Mag, the 300 Win Mag is an excellent cartridge that packs more performance than the 30-06 into a comparably sized package. But this video is about the 7mm Remington Magnum and how it compares to the 300 Winchester Magnum, so that's what we're going to dive into in detail now, starting with their external dimensions. Now, both cartridges are belted magnums that use modified 375 H&H Magnum cases. For that reason, both cartridges have the same rim diameter. The 300 Win Mag has a slightly greater overall length of 3.34 inches versus 3.29 inches, but they're close enough in size that both are used in standard/long action rifles. On the other hand, the 300 Win Mag has a slightly longer case length of 2.62 inches versus 2.5 inches, as well as a shoulder that sits a little bit farther forward than the shoulder of the 7mm Remington Magnum. Though they both have the same rim diameter and are very similar in overall length, the longer case length and advantage of shoulder placement on the 300 Win Mag gives that cartridge a 5 to 8% advantage in powder capacity over the 7mm Remington Magnum. As you would probably expect from the fact that the two cartridges are so similar in overall size, the ballistics of the 7mm Rem Mag and 300 Win Mag are also both very similar. Now, the biggest difference between the two cartridges is the size and weight of the bullets they fire, though. The 7mm Remington Magnum uses .284 caliber bullets, and the 300 Winchester Magnum uses larger .308 caliber bullets. Everything else being equal, the smaller diameter 7mm bullets have a higher ballistic coefficient and a higher sectional density than the larger diameter bullets of the same weight of the 300 Winchester Magnum. However, one little fly in the ointment here is that the 300 Winchester Magnum generally uses heavier bullets than the 7mm Remington Magnum. For instance, the vast majority of 7mm Rem Mag factory loads shoot bullets in the 139 to 175 grain range. Of these, 140 grain, 150 grain, 160 grain, and 175 grain loads are the most common. On the other hand, most 300 Win Mag factory loads use bullets in the 150 to 230 grain range. 150, 165, 180, 190, 200, and 220 grain bullets are the most popular for that cartridge. Now, sectional density is a measure of the ratio of the diameter of a projectile to its mass. All other things being equal, a heavier projectile of a given caliber will be longer and have a higher sectional density and probably penetrate deeper than projectiles that are otherwise identical but just have a lower mass and lower sectional density. As an example, 150 grain and 175 grain .284 caliber bullets have sectional densities of .266 and .310 respectively. This compares favorably to 150 grain and 180 grain .308 caliber bullets, which have sectional densities of .226 and .271 respectively. At the same time, while the 7mm Rem Mag tops out with 175 grain bullets, the 300 Win Mag is capable of firing heavier 200 grain, 208 grain, and 220 grain bullets with sectional densities of .301, .313, and .331 respectively. So with all that said, there is a big overlap in sectional density of these bullets, but the 7mm Remington Magnum probably has a slight edge in this area with the bullets that are most commonly used. Now, we were just talking about sectional density. That same thing usually applies with ballistic coefficient as well. So for instance, 150 grain Barnes TTSX and 168 grain Nosler Accubon long-range bullets in 7mm Remington Magnum have G1 ballistic coefficients of 0.450 and 0.631 respectively, while the 165 grain TTSX and 190 grain Nosler Accubon long-range in 300 Win Mag have ballistic coefficients of 0.442 and 0.597, so just a little bit less aerodynamic. Now the 300 Win Mag does have a little bit less bullet drop and does carry more energy downrange, say on the order of an additional 100 to 300 foot-pounds of energy. Now this is mainly due in part to the fact that the cartridge uses heavier bullets and has more case capacity. However, since the 7mm Magnum bullets generally have a slightly higher ballistic coefficient, the gap in kinetic energy between the two bullets closes slightly at longer range. For all practical purposes, though, there isn't a significant difference in the ballistics of the 300 Win Mag and the 7mm Remington Magnum at typical hunting ranges. They're both flat shooting and hard hitting cartridges. That said, though, the 300 Win Mag has noticeably more recoil than the 7mm Remington Magnum. For example, when fired from the exact same rifle, a 300 Win Mag load firing a 165 grain bullet has about 25% more recoil than a 7mm Remington Magnum load firing a 150 grain bullet at a similar muzzle velocity. That being said, both cartridges have a moderate recoil that many, but not all, shooters should be able to handle without too much problems. Now let's talk about the accuracy of these two cartridges. Most hunters and shooters probably agree that both cartridges are capable of excellent accuracy, and picking the most accurate of the two is a relatively contentious subject. Let's just agree that they're both very accurate, and the differences between them in this area are small enough that they will be overshadowed by other factors like the skill of the shooter and the overall quality of the rifle in question. They'll both get the job done under most reasonable hunting situations if the shooter is up to the task. Now let's talk about ammo selection. Both cartridges are extremely popular Magnum cartridges and consistently rank among the best-selling centerfire rifle cartridges in the USA each year. Just about every big ammo manufacturer like Barnes, Berger, Browning, Federal Premium, Hornady, Nosler, Remington, Weatherby, and Winchester produces a wide array of high-quality factory ammo for both cartridges. Just about every major style of bullet is available in both cartridges as well, like the Barnes TTSX, Berger VLD, Hornady ELDX, GMX, Interbond, Interlock, and SST, the Nosler Accubon, E-Tip, and Partition, the Remington Corelock, the Swift Sirocco and A-Frame, and the Winchester PowerPoint, just to name a few. Prices and availability vary from region to region, but under normal conditions, ammo for both cartridges is normally pretty widely available and probably similarly priced as well. And at the same time, reloading components for both are also extremely common. Since they're such popular bullet sizes, there are lots of .284 and .308 caliber bullets of varying weights and styles to choose from, so you shouldn't have a lot of trouble working up a custom load that shoots very accurately in your chosen rifle. Now, along with lots of choices for ammo, there is an abundance of great hunting rifles produced by nearly every big firearms manufacturer chambered in both cartridges. Additionally, because the cartridges are of the same length and have the same rim diameter, rifles of the same model chambered in each cartridge are usually virtually identical to each other. Among others, the Remington 700, Browning X-Bolt, CZ550, Mossberg Patriot, Ruger M77 Hawkeye, Savage 111, the Tikka T3, Weatherby Mark V, and the Winchester Model 70 are all available in 7mm Remington Magnum and 300 Winchester Magnum. So with all that said, which one is right for you? So we've talked about history, external dimensions, ballistics, recoil, accuracy, and the various rifle and ammo choices available for the 7mm Remington Magnum and the 300 Winchester Magnum so far. Now let's talk about picking the best one for various hunting situations. When using quality bullets and with good shot placement, both cartridges are excellent for hunting medium to large size game at virtually all practical hunting ranges. While both are far too light for use on game like Cape Buffalo, they're still both very flat shooting, heavy hitters with over 3,000 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, and they're suitable for hunting most big game up to and potentially even including moose and Alaska brown bear. Now, they really shine in situations where hunters need a flat shooting cartridge for taking shots out past 200 to 300 yards. So for that reason, both are very popular among hunters in the western United States, up in parts of Canada, as well as places like New Zealand and even Africa. Basically, they're most popular in areas where hunters need a hard-hitting cartridge and where longer range shots are a possibility. Now, at the same time, they're not limited to long-range hunting applications. Indeed, the fact that they're two of the most popular cartridges used by hunting guides really says a lot about their effectiveness on a wide variety of big game, from feral hogs all the way up to moose. Now, this is where the strengths and weaknesses of each cartridge start to diverge, though. The smaller caliber 7mm Remington Magnum is wonderful for smaller and lighter animals like mule deer, pronghorn, or fallow deer. By the same token, the fact that the 7mm Remington Magnum also has a relatively light recoil makes it a great cartridge for mountain hunts where a lightweight rifle is really desirable, like mountain goat, bighorn sheep, and maybe even Himalayan tahr hunting. On the other hand, since it shoots heavier and larger diameter bullets, the 300 Win Mag has a clear advantage when hunting a larger game like elk, moose, caribou, and red stag. It is also an excellent cartridge for hunting most species of African plains game. Don't get me wrong, you can absolutely hunt really big and tough animals like elk or moose with the 7mm Remington Magnum, and hunters have cleanly killed untold numbers of those animals with that cartridge over the years. The high sectional density bullets used by that cartridge really tend to penetrate very well, and it helps that cartridge quote-unquote punch above its weight to an even greater extent than you might think at first just by looking at the ballistics of the cartridge on paper. And even though it's got a little bit more recoil, there's nothing saying that the 300 Win Mag isn't suitable for smaller animals or that it can't be a great rifle for a mountain hunt, because once again, it's a very common and popular cartridge for that sort of hunting as well. Like I said earlier, they're both very versatile, but each cartridge is just a better choice for certain applications. And the fact that I have to nitpick their strengths and weaknesses like that really speaks to their overall effectiveness. So, do you primarily hunt medium-sized game like deer, feral hogs, or black bear in an area where long-distance shots past 200 yards are uncommon? Well, both will work really well under those circumstances, and there isn't that much of a difference between them ballistically inside 300 yards. Now, there's nothing wrong with using either of those cartridges in those situations, but if that's the only sort of hunting you do, then neither one is strictly necessary, and you could get away with something lighter that's a little bit easier on your shoulder or your wallet. But like I said, they both work. I've used them for that sort of hunting, and plenty of other people do too. Now, are you sensitive to recoil? Or maybe you spend a lot of time in the mountains or in the backcountry, mountain goat or sheep hunting, where it's really nice to have a lighter rifle. In that case, consider going with the 7mm Remington Magnum, which has a lighter recoil that is more manageable in a smaller and lighter rifle. Okay, do you want an ideal cartridge for hunting bigger game like moose or elk, or even game in Africa like kudu or eland? Both will do the job just fine, but in this case, I would lean towards the 300 Win Mag because it has a larger diameter and it can shoot heavier bullet weights that are much better suited for extremely large and or tough game. Now, do you hunt in places like Canada or Alaska where you need a heavy-hitting cartridge just in case you find yourself on the wrong end of a brown or a grizzly bear? Neither would be my first choice for facing down an angry bear, but they will both work in a pinch. However, I would personally prefer the 300 Win Mag with, say, 180 grain or heavier bullets over the 7mm Magnum in that situation. But the 7mm Magnum will work, especially if you're using, say, a heavy for caliber bullet for that cartridge like 175 grain trophy bonded bear claw. As I have stated many times, both are outstanding rifle cartridges. While each one may be better suited to specific situations than the other, they are both excellent cartridges overall. Get a high quality rifle, use premium ammo, and spend a lot of time at the range with it. If you do your part, then both the 7mm Rem Mag and the 300 Win Mag will both serve you really well on a wide variety of hunts. The difference between them isn't as great as it's sometimes made out to be, and the animal will never know the difference if your shot is placed in the right spot. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on that red subscribe button below to make sure you don't miss out on any of my new videos about hunting gear reviews, strategies, and more. For more detailed information on some of the other most popular hunting cartridges, click on the link in the description below to get a free ebook I have written on the best hunting calibers. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. Which one do you prefer, the 7mm Remington Magnum or the 300 Win Mag? What game have you successfully taken with each one? Let me know by leaving a comment on this video right now. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and good hunting.